Thank you everyone for joining in today. Good morning for the folks in US and for others joining in from the other parts of the world. So today we are going to see an important topic, B2B partner manager. It's a much awaited topic, and we are going to cover B2B partner manager, what is B2B, and the business context around it, and what is the problem at hand, and what is MuleSoft's approach to B2B, and how MuleSoft tries to solve this problem, the problem we're going to discuss. And after that, we are going to see the product, Anypoint Partner Manager. And after that, we're going to see the partner onboarding setup in B2B Partner Manager. So, what is the B2B context and the problem statement we are going to discuss? So, B2B has been there in since last 40, 50 years. So, it's the business to business communication, and EDI is the electronic data interchange between enterprises to carry out business transactions. So, it's been there for a long time. And a lot of enterprises, it started in the manufacturing and the retail industries, and where they normally used paper-based approach, the manual approach, and they used for purchase order, invoices, sales order. So all these processes, they use a manual paper-based approach. And the main challenge was because it was a paper-based approach, and then it leaves a lot of paper trail. And to manage that, they came up with the approach of electronic data interchange so that they can electronically exchange data, as well as it can serve as a storage mechanism, electronic data storage mechanism. So it started in the manufacturing supply chain industry, and it moved to retail, and then slowly it converted into other industries as well. Like nowadays we see all these EDI interchanges in healthcare, insurance, and logistics domain as well. So traditionally, B2B EDI has been file based. So one partner will send the EDI file, then other partner will send a response on that. So exchange via API. So it was a traditionally it has been file based, but recently through APIs it's been very common and it's becoming very popular. So main ecosystem change came with the EDIs because it was the automation of the ecosystem and to remove the manual process. Okay, and and this process actually started in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and this provided a very fast growth of these industries because these industries were getting challenged due to this paper-based approach. And in a normal EDI scenario, so this is a these are the industries where it has the mostly worked EDI data interchange formats. Like it started with retail and consumer goods manufacturing, and it evolved to other industries like healthcare. So where we see HL7, so which is also an EDI interchange formats, and FHIR, all these formats, interchange formats are coming up. And traditionally, I'll just take an example, basic example of a retail industry. So where we have a retailer and a supplier, and the supplier is the one who supplies products, and retailer is the customer of that supplier. And whenever a retailer wants to buy some product, let's say Walmart, it wants to buy some products from a supplier, let's say jackets, and then it will send a EDI 850 purchase order that I want to buy the specific product for these quantities. At the moment it receives a purchase order, the supplier, uh, once it receives it, so it will send a purchase order confirmation. So in EDI terms, we call it as EDI 855 purchase order confirmation, so that we have received your order, and we they responded back to the retailer, okay, we have received your order and we are preparing your order items. Now it can be this is the flow of a, it will start a purchase order and it will be the end of the transaction. Then after this, the supplier can send a shipping notice that the products are ready and we have shipped the items. So it's called the EDI 856 in a traditional terms. And then it will send the invoice. So when the supplier sends an invoice, which is the EDI 810, so the retailer will check the products are received in proper format in desired quantities, and then it meets the expectation, and then they can release the payment. So they can send the EDI 820 payment order. So this is the very simplistic form of a EDI transaction. So in real life scenarios, it can be more complex. Like it can be like retailer wants to check the supply status. So if it is in the manufacturing stage or it is in some other stage, packaging stage, so they will send some other messages, and then supplier will have to respond on that. So in a real-time scenario, it can be very complex. But in a simplistic terms, these are the flows which can happen between a retailer and a supplier. And in the early days, so it was like each retailer normally interacts with 5 or 10 suppliers in the 70s and 80s, because there were not much suppliers were there, and they operate in a smaller segment of the products. And what they do, they normally work in a small geographic region. Okay, so the number of suppliers were very less in those days. Now slowly, as the time has passed to 90s, 80s, and then retail business has grown, like all the businesses has grown, and then suppliers has also increased, and they have to interact with more number of suppliers. So in a real world scenario, it's very difficult, because when it goes to a, let's say, 100 suppliers, and you have to manage this particular transaction for one supplier, instead of one supplier, you have to manage it for 10 different suppliers. And this is a complex system. Once it grows, so you have to manage all the EDI transactions, and then you have to check if there is any issues in the transactions. You have to check where is the issue, where is your order, and this is a complex process that happens. So you have to ensure that this purchase order is received, and then where the product is. So all those systems actually make it very complex. The main challenge came when the growth of these suppliers has happened. Okay, so when the supplier has grown, and then once EDI evolve into the integration layer, so we started to see actual challenges. Now ERP started to coming in the early 80s. Now the need is really changed from just sending EDI message to integration, and that is why all the challenges started, because it's no longer a EDI message sending and receiving process. Now we have to interact with the backend systems as well, system of records. So how do we ensure that your EDI messages which are coming in, it goes to your master of records, and then whatever you are exchanging between these two parties, and it goes to a seamless integration to your middle and back office and integration, other integration systems, system of records. So this became the central challenge in 70s and 80s and even 90s as well. So one of the key term that you will hear, whoever has worked with the EDI, so you'll hear a term very commonly, that is known as VAN, value added network. So you might have heard about this term. So once the EDA network is actually set up, was almost because this WAN network was almost proprietary in the early days. It is still a proprietary network. So one of the very important need for these EDI exchange was security of your network, because the communication has to be secure between supplier and the retailer in our use case. That secure network was provided by the WAN, because there was a challenge, and then WAN came into the picture, and then they provided this solution. So in addition to the security, WAN also provided few other features as well, like compliance and different EDI standards, message validation, transaction monitoring, because all those systems were not there. and WAN came into the picture, and then they said, okay, we will provide this feature. So each time you set up a WAN network, so they provide some private mails as well, which is provided by the WAN providers. Okay, so WAN is extremely proprietary, but it was good. It was really good. Even nowadays, also people use WAN. So WAN is a very good in terms of managing your EDI network. Then what is the challenge now? Because WAN was really working well. Even now also people use WAN. So it can manage multiple suppliers like a central bank in the world. So they can manage multiple suppliers. What changed actually? What changed or disrupted this whole ecosystem? So that we are trying to evaluate here so that we can understand how MuleSoft came into the picture and now how MuleSoft wants to solve this problem. Okay. So there was a time when I was working with a I will, from my own experience, I'll just share a few things. Like I was working with a large discount retailer. So they were operating in Europe, and they were operating around 20 countries. So they had, as they were a discount retailer, and they had a lot of suppliers in their network. So, so during the seasons, like the seasonal times, so during festival seasons and those other seasonal times, they have some suppliers who works only in the seasonal time. And we were managing a actually B2B network of around 10,000 suppliers, and it was a very large B2B network, and the data volume was really very big. And due to this sudden rise of the suppliers during the seasonal time, so the supplier, the integration supplier counts, it might go to 20,000 to 15,000. Okay, so they were using Edifact, EDI Edifact standards because they were in Europe. Now they wanted to move to US markets as well, because US markets use X12. Now, there are different EDA formats as well. So once this global supply chain and global expansion happen, this become a challenge, because WAN was working pretty well till that time, and now you're not restricted to X12. Okay, Edifact. Now you have X12, and some customers will be using RosettaNet, Radcoms, and now some customers have their own standards as well, standard JSON and XML formats. So, so that number was very serious, like 10,000, 15,000 supplier. That was a very serious number, okay, which was plaguing the retailer. So then these days, what happens, like this multi-brand retail has come into the picture. So multi-brand retail actually changed this complete ecosystem. So earlier, those who were like manufacturing internally, they were manufacturing their products, and they do not have much suppliers at that point. But once multiple brand retail came into the picture, so they're not actually selling. These retailers are not selling their own products. They're selling cross-brand products, and to manage those inventories and even those collaboration between suppliers, so the landscape has totally changed. The data volume has really increased, and the partner requirements like partner onboarding, everything has really changed. Then came into the challenge of integration as well. Because if you have different partners, you need different integrations, because one partner will be using X12, another will be using Edifact, some could be using RosettaNet, and you could have different data formats as well. Plus, you will have communication protocols, like someone will be using FTP, someone will be using SFTP, and then AS2. They want to use different communication protocols. Some could be SMTP. So the landscape has really changed. So once we receive it, no longer a EDI exchange only. So it came into the picture of your integration points. So more number of uh, suppliers, more number of partners, your integration points will also increase. So the B2B world had a real challenge. So in the current world, so a partner wants to have a complete visibility. So just this is the challenge in the current times. Like if partner wants to have a complete end-to-end visibility, so he has to know where his order is, where so that the money comes to your to his bank account very quickly. So he wants to have a complete end-to-end visibility. And now the challenge is inability to scale at speed, because you cannot wait for 4 to 6 months to onboard a new partner. So maximum it can wait for 2 to 3 weeks. So as a MuleSoft, so MuleSoft is looking at this number very seriously. So we want to reduce the number to 2 to 3 weeks timeline. So it's not 4 to 6 months. So which is a real challenge. And the legacy cost of these point-to-point integrations and custom integrations are very huge for a long-term maintenance cost. And even you have data quality issues like security and all these aspects. So, and you have to handle multiple formats of the data. Okay, so these kind of issues has came into the picture. So these are the real challenges that is still there, because EDI has been there for a long time, but it has been like custom and point-to-point integration. Now MuleSoft has come into the picture, and then we will try to understand what is MuleSoft approach to B2B. MuleSoft approach to this B2B, which is our API-led network. So EDI is no longer a message interchange. Okay, so we'll understand what is MuleSoft approach to B2B, which is again our API-led connectivity, and we'll understand how they approach to solve this challenging problem. Okay, so API-led is the real differentiator in this B2B world. As I already mentioned, that integration is a key bottleneck, and I have given the reason as well, like why integration is the key bottleneck. So we are not looking at just X12 as a EDI standard. Okay, so in the EDI world, we are not looking at X12 only. So we're looking at different formats like Edifact, RosettaNet, Radcoms, and JSON and XML schemas, customer defined schemas. So if you have to support all these formats, it's important to understand that you need a robust framework. Okay, you definitely need a robust framework which is like fast, which is like fast enough. You cannot wait for 4 to 6 months for a partner to onboard, because I want the partner to be integrated to my ecosystem very fast. If today I want to integrate with a supplier, if I am a retailer, I want a new supplier, if I want to onboard it, I cannot wait for 4 to 6 months. So that is the timeline we are looking at. So there are normally three key pillars. So there are normally three key pillars. So which are like product data, order data, and the partner data. So these are the three key pillars. I want to have a complete view of the partner's product data, order partner product data, and partner CRM systems or partner's own data, okay, to establish my trading network. So in current world of integration, it takes around 4 to 6 months. So if someone has to stay competitive, because nowadays retail and other industries are very competitive. So if you have to be competitive, so maximum we can just wait for 2 to 3 weeks time. Okay? And that is the window MuleSoft is looking at to solve using this API-led connectivity. So in the current world, the moment we onboard a integration or onboard a partner or entity, we build in the current world how it is happening. Like we build very specific integration with the backend systems using point-to-point or custom integration. Each time we onboard, we keep on rebuilding this point-to-point integration, because that's how the existing ecosystem is actually working, and that's how the architecture is. So if you look at what changes between this partner one and this partner two, if you look at this diagram in the slide, so if you look at the partner one and partner two, is their message exchange standards can be different. One can be like EDI 850 using X12, and another can be a defect. The message exchange standards can be different, and to some extent their master data can be different. So these are the two variables. which are the differentiators between partner 1 and partner 2. But everything else, once your transactions start, and everything else in your ecosystem, your business, so that remains same. So today your process, order process, products process, so all these processes, so that remains same. Okay, so we are building custom integrations, but the partners, so our organization, let's say I'm a retailer, my business process is always same. So this is always sacrosanct. My business process, cash to order process, invoice process, so that always remains same. So instead of building specific integration for each partner, so what we normally do is, like, through an application network, we expose our systems using the system APIs, and then on top of that, we build process APIs. So while onboarding a new partner in the MuleSoft approach is nothing but just to build a new experience API. Okay, so we we do not think of it as a new EDI integration. So we think of it as a just building another experience layer on top of the existing process and system APIs. Okay, so keep in mind that in the MuleSoft world, B2B treatment, we don't look at B2B as a separate entity, okay, which has to be brought in, that disrupts all existing API layers completely. So to us, B2B is nothing more than an experience API. So I'll just look at the questions if you have any queries. So I'll just look at the questions. If you have any queries, yeah, no queries. So I'll just continue. So if you have any queries, just put it on the question and answer board so that I will just go through it. Okay, so let's continue on that. So for a MuleSoft approach, it is like building a just experience API on top of the existing existing process and system APIs. So the way we treat a mobile or a portal or a voice app is the same we treat a EDA partner or a new channel. So it's like integrating a new partner or a channel is same to building a experience API. So just we have to expose an experience API in which we take an EDI message and process that message, then we format it, then translate it if required, and make it ready. Okay, so if there are some specific business rules that needs to be coded or needs to be implemented for this channel, and then if there are any data enrichment in terms of master data enrichment, so we do as part of the channel or as part of the experience API. Once these are done, then we reuse the same process APIs that we have for every other channel. Okay, so now the main differentiator is our application network, because what changes is your business never changes. The way you do business, it will never change. So today you are onboarding one partner, and tomorrow if you are onboarding 30 other partners, your business processes will never change. What you're changing, you're just building an experience API. That's the MuleSoft approach. But till date, to onboard new B2B partners, so we use custom integration for each partner. Okay? So that is the approach how MuleSoft is trying to solve this B2B problem. Okay? So this, because these business processes are fundamentally, they will never change, no matter which partner I do business with. So business processes are always sacrosanct. So so there will be my process API. So that means process APIs will never change, and even system APIs. So if my business process is sacrosanct and the process API is like, the order to cash is defined in the process API, and it will never change. Even my inventory invoice management process, so which is defined as a process API, this will never change. Okay, so the same way you can think of as the procure to pay process. So all those process APIs will never change. So only thing that will change is your experience API, where you will receive the message and then you will translate it, reformat it. So all these things you'll have to do. Okay. So I'll onboard a new partner, B2B partner, as an experience API. I'll do all the channel specific translation in the experience API itself. Then I'll reuse the process and system API. Okay. So what really happens when we do this? So when we do this, so we move from the current way of working in EDI to this particular way. So straight away, we are simplifying the entire thing. So entire thing we are just simplifying. So there will be high degree of reusability because you no longer have to build custom integration. So you're just building process experience API. So straight away, you're simplifying the whole thing with a high degree of reusability and very short time to onboard the partner. So which earlier normally took 4 to 6 months of time. Okay. So this is how this problem is getting solved. So this is another example that I have. Look at the partner 1, partner 2, and partner 3. So partner 1 exchange EDIX12, partner 2 has a defect, and partner 3 could be some JSON or XML schemas they're exchanging through APIs. Okay. So three different partners, three different formats, three different ways to connect. One could be partner 1 could be using SFTP, partner 2 could be using AS2, or partner 3, let's say SMTP. But all these partners are treated as experience API or a channel, just a different channel. Okay. The moment I have taken the data, I work with the data, and everything else is taken care by the system and the process APIs, because everything that is required to be done to convert that EDIX12 to my canonical format, my JSON schema. So everything will be done in the experience API. Any enrichment is required, so everything will be taken care in the experience API, and then it will be passed to this process API. Okay. So the process has really changed now. Okay. So the message I want to leave is that next time you have an integration scenario, be it like SFTP, FTP, or ACE2, just think about it. If you're already on an API-led connectivity, so if your enterprise is on an API-led connectivity, so you don't have to really reinvent. So if you are already have all these APIs defined, and if you have a plan to onboard any new partners, you just think of it as another channel, or just reuse your existing API-led network. So if that is not done, and if you are trying to onboard new partners, so first you have to decompose your network and you have to build the API-led network, so that for your enterprise, so that it becomes very easy, because this is the API-led is the only way which is resolving this particular challenge. Okay, so EDI transactions or EDI integrations cannot no longer be a point-to-point integrations. So you'll have to piggyback on this on your API-led network. So there is no other way. So that is how your uh, partner onboarding is getting very simpler. So so this is so I have a sender A, so who sends you an EDI message, let's say, and this is the slide for a brief scenario. I'll explain how this partner manager comes into the picture. So first I have explained like what is the B2B challenge, though WAN was a very good thing, and then the multi-band retail and VMI, all these concepts has come in, and due to this rapid growth of custom partners and then different data formats, and WAN was not sufficient to that. And then we have seen that how MuleSoft tries to solve this problem. And then in this slide, we'll see that how the partner manager, this product, so this is a very nascent product which is built on top of your API-led connectivity. So how this product fits into this architecture. Okay. So we have a business A, let's say this is a sender. and business B is the receiver. So business E sends a purchase order via EDI, and once business B receives it, so assume that this particular enterprise, business B, has a API-led network. Okay, so partner A might use different formats, different transport protocols as well. Okay, and this is critical. So I'll need to factor that particular aspect, that they might use different protocols, different standards, okay, and they will have different security aspect as well. So once you receive it, once the enterprise B receives it, so it is transformed from that EDI to your JSON schema or this JSON standard. And then once you convert that, this will go to your purchase order API. So in the part here, so where your purchase order API is shown, so it will go to your purchase order API. Now, what this Anypoint B2B partner manager is doing here? So all this translation, when you receive the message and then you're doing a translation to your own JSON schema, all these translations are happening at this layer, B2B partner manager layer. So it is handling, so if your partner is sending AS2 using transport protocol or HTTP or SFTP, so everything is handled by this partner manager. Okay? So it goes to, ultimately it goes to your backend ERP system or your through your application network. So through your application network, it goes to your backend systems. So the the simplification, it actually simplifies the whole process. So partner manager simplifies, it handles everything, and it simplifies the whole process. So it meets the business requirement as well. So we have a lot of connectors, so which can handle this format and transport details. So in the experience layer itself, because the journey started, the B2B journey started in MuleSoft in 2015. Then at the time, there were a lot of B2B connectors, X12, and all those connectors were developed, and it actually made the process very simple. So you can build the integrations real quick. So this is a future-proof architecture because it helps customers to modernize, to expose their experience APIs, and it can handle different formats. You don't have to worry about onboarding a new partner anymore. Okay? So you have a very high degree of reuse. So as it is a future-proof architecture, and partner can have a end-to-end view of your EDI masses, starting from sending the purchase order to monitoring where the order is. So how many days it will take. So all these things were really simplified. Now I'll move to the partner manager screen. So I'll show you the screen of the partner manager and different aspects of the partner manager, B2B partner manager. So this is a high level diagram. So Anypoint partner manager V2 is the latest one. So earlier we had another version V1. So we have now the 2.5 is the latest version of the partner manager. Okay, so we have trading partner onboarding is there. Then we have different processing rules we can implement. Then we have transaction tracking. So all these things are implemented in the partner manager. So I'll just go to the partner manager setup and other details. So I'll quickly show you. So this is the partner manager screen. So if you are able to view my partner manager screen, just give a thumbs up. Okay, sure. So if you see here, Anypoint platform, I have the partner manager tab here. So if I click on the partner manager, okay, so this is the partner manager screen, and Epicero Sandbox is the organization. So this is in the sandbox environment. And if you see here, there are 4 tabs. So this is the organization, which is actually creating a trading network. So Epicero Sandbox is the enterprise, we can say. And we have partners. So in the partners tab, you will see different partners. And then we have another tab called message flows. So I'll show you what message flows means. And another is activity. So to set up your partner manager, so partner manager can be, so there are two deployment options. So this is one of the deployment option in Cloud Hub. So in Cloud Hub, you can deploy, and another is your on premises. So on premises also you can deploy it. So in the Cloud Hub, so you have to have access management in the partner manager administration permission. So this permission is required, and it heavily uses Anypoint MQ. So I'll show why Anypoint MQ you use and object store. So all these Cloud Hub infrastructure, all the core components are heavily used in the partner manager. So Anypoint MQ and object store, these are heavily used. And I'll go through the vCode requirements as well once I cover the main important points. So this is the episode of Sandbox, and you have to create an identifier, because so whenever some partner is sending you some EDI message, so there are two parts. One is your sender, one is your receiver, and that's why we defined the uh, identifier. So if I just click here, new identifier, and I have to select the type of identifier like a reference ID, X12, ISA, segment. So if I just select X12 ISA, and then the qualifier name, there can be multiple qualifiers. So DUNS number can be one of the qualifiers. So if you are using phone number as a qualifier, that can be also possible. So these, whatever qualifiers you define it here, it has to be sent in your EDI message. So I'll just quickly show you EDI message structure. So this is a EDI message, sample EDI 850 purchase order. So if you see here, this is the sender ID here in this ISA segment. So this is the ISA segment here, interchange. And then this is the receiver ID. So in our case, some partner will be sending the data, and this is the receiver. Okay. So if you see here, so I can put it as a mutually defined, ZZ is a mutually defined ID identifier, and I can put a identifier here. And that's why I have defined one identifier, this 41569. So this is a random identifier at this moment, because this is a mutually defined identifier between the partner and the enterprise. So this is the identifier for the enterprise. Then we can define the certificates here. So we can upload the certificate, and this will be used in the secrets manager. Now coming to this endpoints. So endpoints are receive endpoints. So at which endpoint you will receive the EDI messages. It can be SFTP. It can be your, if you just click on the endpoint, you'll see that protocols. It can be AS2 or SFTP. As I have already mentioned that you can handle different protocols here. So if I define as a SFTP, so you have to just define the details of the SFTP location. And there is a target. So target is very important. So once you receive a EDI message, you will translate that message to your standard, maybe a JSON or XML. Then you will route that message to your application network, because the underlying network where we will be processing the messages is the application network. Okay. So then next is the partner onboarding. So this is the partner tab. If you click on the new partner, so if I click on the new partner, so I can define a new partner here. Okay. So let me define a new partner real quick. Let me name it as Geo Biotech. Geo Biotech is the new partner. Let's say insurance. And then I'll have to define an identifier for this partner. So I'll just define an identifier, mutually defined, and I'll put as a 0. So this is my identifier. So whenever this partner wants to send me some messages, they'll have to use here the sender ID as geo. So I'll use this, I'll click on the create partner. So I'll show you how easy it is to onboard a new partner. So once we have defined this identifier for this partner, so we'll go to the validation. So we'll go to the X12 for now, and then we'll see that acknowledgements. So once this partner, Geo Bioinsurance, they send the message, they're expecting a transaction acknowledgement. Okay, so they're expecting a transaction acknowledgement. So in EDI times, we can say this is a 997 or 999 functional acknowledgement. So I have selected both, like send 997 functional acknowledgement when messages fail to route to a message flow. Now, where you will send those acknowledgement? So we'll have to define it here. So let's say we select it here. There are no endpoints. So I'll create an endpoint here for the Geo Bioinsurance. So protocol, I can select SFTP, okay, and I'll select that this is the SFTP Geo Bioinsurance receive or ACK. I can say this is the ACK one for acknowledgement, and I can select the host, and I'll have to provide the details for SFTP location and the target path. So normally I use the thumb rule of using this particular structure for each particular partner. I'll have a separate FTP path. So I can select Geo Bio Insurance. So this is my source location, and I'm not just running it. I'll just show you the process. So I have a FTP server, SFTP server running in. So I'll just show you the process, and then any running instances I will show you. So this is how it will set the target path. So just give me a moment. I'll just copy it. Then you save the details. So this is the endpoint for sending the ACK. And then there are a few validations. We'll select all these validations, fail when value length outside the allowed range, all these validations. And then we'll go to the control number. That is the most important part. The why it is important, because you cannot really process duplicate transactions. So, and how these duplicate transactions are identified using this control number. Control number is unique for each EDI transaction. Okay, so so that's why we have checked all these validations, and character set is there. So we'll save it. So once the partner sends some information through EDMSs, so they will receive the acknowledgement at that particular endpoint. Now, the next important point is message flow. So message flow, if you see here, so for this particular partner, we'll build a new message flow, because so this is a receive from partner, because we are trying to receive EDI messages from a partner. So I'll select this new partner, Geo Bioinsurance, okay, and I'll select it new. So this is a message flow. If you see here, this is a very visually appealing way. Like it is like receive from Geo Bioinsurance. I'll have to select an endpoint, at which endpoint they will send the messages, EDI messages, and the message type. So I'll just click here, receive select endpoint, the receiving endpoint where I will receive the messages. So no endpoint is selected here. So just select a new. So SFTP receives, so all these are already here. So I'll just try to create a new one to show you. So protocol, I can say AS2 or SFTP, because I already have a SFTP. So I'll say SFTP Geo Bioinsurance receive. So this is the receiving endpoint where I will receive the EDI messages from that particular partner. From the Geo Bioinsurance partner, I'll receive messages at this endpoint. I'll define it here. source path, I'll use a similar path. I'll use this path as like this source folder. I'll put it in the source folder to receive the messages at this location, and I'll put the archival path as well, source, and then I'll just change the name here. Instead of the other partner, I'll use Geo Bioinsurance. Then after this, I'll have to select the masses, source masses, what type of messages they're going to send. And they're going to send X12 4010850 standard EDI purchase order. Okay. And then these validations are already applied, and I'll select the acknowledgement. Acknowledgement endpoint will have to select. So which we have already created an acknowledgement endpoint for SFTP Geo Bioinsurance ACK. So this endpoint we have already created. Then I'll come to this map section later on. I'll just quickly go to the target section. Target is very important because as an enterprise, we are receiving those messages. Then we'll decide what we want to do. How do we pass it on to our application network? Because that is the most important part. So message type. So here we will have to select, this is a JSON schema. So that is a JSON schema that is for our enterprise. We are using this. So I'll select this particular JSON schema. So this is a sample JSON I'm using at this moment. So endpoint, now this endpoint is the one that is shown in this diagram. So if you notice this diagram, if you just notice this diagram, there is an endpoint to move this particular translated message to your application network. Okay, so that's why this endpoint is very important. So if you see here, target to episode of sandbox. So if you click here, you will see that there are three different ways: HTTP, HTTPS, or SFTP. We can use SFTP, and then we can send that message to SFTP location from where our APIs can pick up those files. Or otherwise, we can have a HTTP API call, and then directly we can send those EDI translated messages to our application network. So that's why this target is very important. I'll just put a SFTP target here. Okay, and the host name, I'll just keep it simple. And it will be my target. And then I'll save it. So in this way, so in a short time, you can just onboard a particular partner. The next point, what remains is the map. So map, you have to create a data weave. So that data weave is hand coded. So this particular data weave file, I have stored it. So this is the data weave file. I'll just use this data weave to convert 850 EDI to a JSON. So I'll just upload that mapping. So once this particular step is done, it will show all green, and then it will enable this button to deploy it. If you see, this deploy button is there on the top, so you can deploy it. So I'm not deploying it, but how it so once it is deployed, because we're running short of time, so I'll show you one particular message flow where it is already deployed. So I have another message flow there. So here is one for the biotech insurance. So this is deployed today. So once it is deployed, it creates few applications. So I'll just quickly go through here my command line. So because I'm running a on-prem server, so where I'm deploying, the reason is to run your partner manager. So the recommended configuration is you need at least 3 vCores. Okay, so that is the minimum configuration. And on top, I mean, 4 vCores is recommended, but you need at least 3 vCores. And here, if you see, there are 5 different applications are deployed. One is the API replication service, another is document processing service, and another will be your, so I'll show you in the presentation. It will be much more clear. I have taken a screenshot here. So there are 3 applications created. So all these are applications which are deployed in your runtime manager or in your on-premise runtime. Okay, so if you see here, so 5 different applications are created once you create a message flow and deploy it. So one is the replication service, so which is the internal service, and another is document processing service. Okay, and 3 other services. One is for inbound, one is for the receive ACK, one is for the outbound. So every time you onboard a partner, so these will be reused, like a replication service and the document processing service. And for every partner, you'll have an inbound, outbound, and the receive ACK. So total, there will be around 5 applications. And the reason is this application, replication service, and the document processing each can take up at least 1 vCore. And other applications, minimum 0.1 vCore is required for that. And another thing that is very important is your B2B partner manager content storage API. So why content storage API is important is, so if you go to the episode of Sandbox, you'll see here there is a payload storage, because whenever the payload is coming in, so it has to be stored somewhere. You might store it in database or S3 bucket or anywhere, but you have to create an API where you will store your uh, incoming payloads, so that whenever you see your activity, so whenever you send some messages, so you'll see some activities. I do not have it here, so I'll show you from the presentation. So once you receive messages here, so you'll see the transaction like this, like XL from Biotech Insurance. So, and you'll see a green mark if everything is processed. So everything is processed, you'll see a green mark here. And once you click there, you'll see the entire transaction history. Like you will receive the transaction. If you click on the view payload, you'll just see the payload. So for that, we need the content storage API. So that has to be configured. And in the on-prem environment, if you just put it into the on-prem, and if you do not have the content storage API, your deployment will fail. Okay, so that won't work here. So I'll just quickly go through the configuration. So while if you have to go to the access management, and then you need the details of your uh, partner manager administrator access. Then in the mm, MQ will be heavily used if you have deployed it on the deployed it on the Cloud Hub, because all those applications that I have shown you, so those communicate via MQ, because this is the fastest way to communicate. So it uses MQ heavily. And then I'll go to the another setting for the partner manager. So if you see here, there is a partner manager tab in the settings. So there is one setting where there is a setting called deploy to Cloud Hub. So if I choose deploy to Cloud Hub, so it will deploy to Cloud Hub. Now currently I have made it to on premises, so that's why it is not showing it here. So if I just select it deploy to Cloud Hub, so it will just select this option. Okay, so there are active deployments exist, so that's why it is not allowing to change. So another important point here is so if you want to deploy it to on-premises, so you have to go to your runtime manager. I'll show my application which are already deployed in the on-premise. So you have to create a server group, B2B server group you have to create. This server group you have to create. And then this is the API application service. And I'll show this one. So these are the document processing service and the replication service. So for each partner, you'll have a inbound, outbound, and the ACK. So these 3 applications will be there. So you have to create this B2B server group, and then you can deploy it from the message flow. You was when you click on the deploy in the message flow, your applications will be deployed in the runtime manager. Okay, so this is the whole process how do you create onboard a new partner. So in the other tab for monitoring, you will monitor your transactions, and another important point here is you have to configure your content storage API. So that is one of the important point here. So I'll just go through a few of the commonly asked questions. So normally people ask, so what is the minimum vCore required for cloud app deployment? So minimum 3 vCore is required for that environment, and 4 is recommended. Then you might have a question like, do we need separate message flows for each partner? Yes. For each partner onboarding, you'll need a separate message flow. And even your paths are separate, like you want to receive on the partner name slash your source. And for another path, if you want to receive your messages, so let's say different kind of messages, and you want to use different paths. So for that also you'll need a separate path, because in one particular message flow, you cannot define two endpoints. So that is one of the limitation, because the product is very nascent, but it is evolving very fast, and all these things are in the pipeline. So the next is, does it have any capability to detect duplicate transactions? So yes, internally, because it uses object store and you cannot really process duplicate transactions. So it uses the control number internally, so that duplicate transactions are prohibited. Okay, and this is the next question, could be like, what are the current limitations? Okay, so in the earlier versions when it was released on 2.1 or 2.0, you did not have the outbound processing for the EDIs. Now we have in the 2.5 version, so we have EDI outbound processing as well. But only limitation is data wave maps has to be created in Anypoint Studio, and then we can really use it here. And this X12 GS identifiers are not really used while sending incoming EDI message to your message flow. Okay, and this is the another limitation is B2B transactions will fail if we do not define the content storage API for on-premise deployment. And, and the VPN and dedicated load balancer are not currently supported for cloud hub deployments. So can we use multiple receive endpoint for single message flow? No, we cannot use it at the moment. So what is the MuleSoft recommendation? Who should use partner manager? That normally clients and customers ask this question. So as per MuleSoft, if your pressing need is to use onboarding time as a driving factor, and your partners are really good in number, like more than 30 uh, partners, and you want to onboard them very fast, and they're really changing every time, partners are changing, and then if it is a driving factor, then you should go with the partner manager. So that's all that I had to cover, and I'll just quickly check if you have any queries here. Question and answer. Okay, IBM Sterling Integrator is preferable, or Anypoint B2B Partner Manager is the best. See, IBM Sterling Integrator is specific to your EDI integrations, because this is the only product where we have only EDI integrations. But Anypoint B2B Manager has lot of things that you see that it uses your underlying API network, application network, and this application network is reused every time. So it's like onboarding a new partner is very easy. Okay, so do you have any specific use cases that suits Muley B2B that prefer well? I at this moment I do not have any specific use case uh, comparing IBM Sterling Integrator and Mule B2B, because Mule B2B currently supports all the protocols, most of the protocols like Rosetta.NET, Edifact, X12, Tradcoms, and customer-defined JSON and XML formats. But I do not have really comparison at this moment. As you mentioned, B2B partner manager is an okay. As you mentioned, B2B partner manager is an experience layer on onboarding partners will be done by business or developers. So onboarding, whenever we have to onboard partners, so it has to be done by developers because you have to define all the message flows and everything, and then we just have to configure the message flows. So it can be done by developers, or if the business has knowledge on which particular data weave to use and has the knowledge, then it can be used. But normally developers will create those configurations. But business can go to the monitoring tab and then they can view end to end of the transactions. Settings in partner manager is one-time activity except the new partners joining in. Yes, setting in partner manager is a one-time activity. So it can be changed, like if your partner might say that, okay, I have defined this particular identifier, but from tomorrow, I'll send using a different identifier. Then you just have to define this new identifier for that partner. So these kind of things might change, but normally all the settings will remain same for new partner onboarding. So once you do it, so you unless partner wants to change it, like FTP endpoint, let's say FTP endpoint gets changed, their certificates is renewed. So all those instances you'll have to change it. How to achieve the steps you showed in B2B partner manager in CI/CD process? Okay, so now at this point, CI/CD is not really implemented because this is a configuration. It has to be manually done now. It has to be done manually at this point. Document processing API and application API will be created when we onboard partner. No. So this is a one-time activity whenever we create the first map and then we deploy this flow. So at that time, replication and process API, document processing API will be created. But every time, your inbound, outbound, and ACK services will be deployed. So that's what, like if you I have deployed multiple times, and if you see here in the B2B server group, so this was API replication service was deployed yesterday, 18 November, and today I have deployed few partner specific only services. Okay. So next question. Does MuleSoft API save the partner details in the internal database table? MuleSoft API save the partner details. Yeah, it must have stored this information somewhere internally. So this information has to be stored even whenever you're sending, the partner is sending information. So that information is also stored using your content storage API. So you really have to build a content storage API, and then you can store that information. But the partner specific information are stored internally. So I've covered most of these questions. For Satish, that was the question from Satish. Does MuleSoft API save the partner details in the internal database tables? Do you have any more questions? Any utilities to check and retrieve the internal, external client certificates? These certificates are stored in the Secrets Manager. So in the Partner Manager tab, it really doesn't store it. It is stored in your uh, Secrets Manager. So internally, Partner Manager uses lot of Mule components, like it uses object store. Mhm. Probably I'll also have to check this particular feature for alerting and certificate expiry. Satish, I will just respond to you after I check this certificate expiry, because Partner Manager, I do not see that particular feature for alerting. I'll check this one. But internally, it stores the password, secrets, and certificates in the secrets manager. Okta security feature handling, security feature handling management. So do you mean like Okta security feature? That means for your API network? So security feature wise, so you can use your ACE protocol HTTPS. So that is possible. And for your underlying APIs, you can use Okta or other security features. When we onboard new partner, three APIs will get created: inbound, outbound, and ACK. So this is the if you have the acknowledgement configured, so that is for Vinod. So Vinod has asked, if I understood correctly, when we onboard new partner, three APIs will get created: inbound, outbound, and the ACK. So if you just configure ACK, like we have configured for the partner, right? So once we receive the message, we'll send the acknowledgement, functional acknowledgement. For that, we have this ACK service that's created. Yes, for API external authentication. So these are endpoints, not like APIs. So whenever this is just like building your another experience API. So this is not an experience API. So this is just like creating another channel or an experience API, because through the partner B2B partner manager. So what happens, like once you receive the message, you process it, you handle different protocols at the partner manager layer, then you pass that message after converting it to your application network. So this is similar to your experience API, but this is not an experience API. Okay. Document processing and application API will be created separately for Cloud Hub and for on-premise storage API. So once you configure, like you cannot do both. Like now I have configured it for on-premise. So you again have to change it to deploy to Cloud Hub, so that you can deploy these APIs to Cloud Hub. Whenever you create the message flow and click on the deploy, those message flows will be, I mean, those applications will be deployed to your Cloud Hub runtime. So really, at the same time, you cannot do both. You have to switch in the configuration. Either you use on-premise or Cloud Hub. That was for Vinod. Document processing API and replication API will be created separately for Cloud Hub and for on-premise. No, it will be created once, because configuration-wise, we can select on-premise or otherwise deploy to Cloud Hub. And Satish, for API external authentication, because this is not an API, right? We are receiving the messages, EDI messages, but it is similar to creating an experience API. That's what I meant to say. So this is just like creating another experience layer for new partners. So that everything is handled for this new partner, like handling different protocols, handling the message formats. One partner might be using Edifact, some could be using Tradcoms or Ethernet. So through your partner manager, so that handling becomes very easy. You are transforming it through the message flow, and then you are sending this message to your application network. You can put this in a SFTP location, or you can directly call your internal application network APIs to pass that message. so that it will be processed internally in your application network and can be stored. If you are using backend database, it will be stored there for master data management or any other system in that case. The product is still evolving. Like the concept wise, it is using it's using the API-led network to make the onboarding very fast and seamless. Yeah. Any more questions? Hope the session was useful to give you a short introduction to the product and the features available.